Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of MTG Study Hall. I am one of your hosts, Brett, and I am joined, as always, by my co-hosts,
JC
and
Dave.
And before we launch into the show, which is good, there's a lot of really fun stuff I'm excited to talk about, we've got a little bookkeeping to take care of. Dave.
Yeah, you can support the show, as always, by checking us out on Facebook, YouTube, Patreon, all at .com/TCG University. We're available on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify. Go out and rate us, give us 5 stars, share with your friends, put us on your Bookface, your Twitter, your whatevers. Every little bit helps.
And Patreon, $1 gets you extra content. And we've got all sorts of extra fun tiers if you want more stuff.
So you can listen to our pre-show where we were talking about such sweet, sweet other card games like UFS.
Speaking about one of those higher tiers, we'd like to thank our Patreon Junior and higher sponsors. Clay Cardwell, Jay Rogers, Hubbard Jerome Weeks Jr., Justin Farst, Kat Maria, Kevin Broberg, Lucinda Letica, Samantha Stevens, Teodora Ruiz, and Tyler Zane Pease. I would love to have some more J's and T's on this list. Feel free to join this list, everyone. We really appreciate the people who are on there. Thank you so much.
And we get some other letters in there too. And I don't think anyone's repping the B team, so let's work on that. Viewers whose name starts with B. That's a broad demographic, I'm sure. Okay, so
if you would have done that whole sentence in alliteration, I probably would have lost my mind.
I'm not that smart.
This is now a hip-hop podcast.
Oh, God. Oh, that's good. That's good. I definitely look like the host of I look like someone who's like, yeah, I look at Brett, and I say, he looks like someone who knows a lot about hip-hop and should talk about it a lot.
This is a hip-hop podcast.
Oh, my God. I like hip-hop, but I barely feel like I can talk on a Magic podcast.
Oh, that's
Everyone made a funny face when before we launch to the topic, I forgot. So In and Out of Magic. So that was already going. I'll just go first. I can do that. I'm in control. Out of Magic, I watched the Oscars, which was super awesome. Parasite won a ton of awards and Best Picture. Parasite kind of swept out of nowhere, and it was awesome, and that was my choice for Best Picture.
First foreign language film.
Yeah, first foreign language film to ever get Best Picture. I think first film to ever get Best Foreign Language and Best Picture, both awards. Super great movie. If you haven't seen Parasite, you need to see it. I was thinking of the Oscars because Eminem came out of the blue and performed. He did because he won Best Song for was it 8 Mile?
No.
8 Mile's not been a movie.
It was.
It's been a movie for a long time.
It was the one where he had a bunch of copies of himself that came out for that one.
No. He won for 8 Mile. That's the movie that he's in. Yeah, no. Because Lose Yourself won Best Picture.
Oh,
no,
yeah.
not Best. Oh my God, no. Lose
Mile?
Yourself won Best. No, 8 Mile didn't win Best Picture. Lose Yourself from 8 Mile won Best Original Song 20 years ago.
Oh.
20. Yeah. So
wow, that song is 20 years ago.
Around there, yeah. So
I remember
Mom
seeing
Spaghetti.
that movie.
So
ready.
He came out and did that performance, and they panned to the audience, and some people were really into it, and some people were like,
"This is
what is this Eminem?" And so a few people were making this weird face, and then other people were like, "Yeah," and so it was really funny to watch the reactions when nobody knew Eminem was coming out.
Just keep in mind that song came out before Billie Eilish was born.
Yeah, no. Then the look on Billie Eilish's face when he came out was weird.
Apparently, that was taken out. That was Maya Rudolph and Kristen Stewart, their bit on stage, and that was kind of her response to either her seeing the camera, panning to her, or just the fact that their bit wasn't very funny.
Look, I thought their bit was funny.
I'm just saying, certain hosts of shows like Masked Singer are still doing diss tracks against Eminem. He's still relevant.
I would say, no. And Elton John won, and they're actually good friends, so they actually got to meet up, so that was cool.
Also, the second year without a host.
Yeah, I didn't watch last year because last year's pictures were a garbage fire. And it was dumb. And this year was great. A ton of great movies this year. And people, check out the Oscar movies. I could ramble on for a while. So, Oscars, playing Destiny 2. It's good and free. Try Destiny 2. Magic, nothing too crazy. Keeping abreast of the stuff. Recorded Brawling with Brett. Had a good time on that. Thinking about maybe starting to stream while I record Brawling with Brett because I'm just really having... I like talking to an audience.
Do it.
So I think we're gonna get set streaming up soon. So you can watch me make mistakes and punt a bunch of games live instead of having to wait for the video.
I can potentially Skype in and talk mad shit when you're doing it.
Oh my gosh, I would love that. Okay, so that's me. Dave, In and Out of Magic.
Pokemon Home came out, I believe, 2 days ago. So that means that, all you Pokemon masters, you are in a position to catch all of them.
Catch them all.
So let's go ahead and... Let's have a Patreon thing. You can totally get my friend code by joining the Patreon.
And if you want to be Pogo friends, just
you could just message in the Discord and get that
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh hell yeah, yeah!
you-
I'll go and shoot that out on the Discord somewhere. If you want to like put in a channel for Pokemon related things, I'll send both in.
I would love a Pokemon. There might be a card game about Pokemon.
Is
Is there maybe?
Is there one?
Can
Yeah.
we check? Tam, can you
I
check?
don't believe you.
Can we check on that?
We'll go.
Can you check on that and get back to us?
Yeah, I for
That
sure
feels
will.
like the type of thing that would just be absolutely insane, where the first 3 sets would sell out to absurdity.
And-
I don't think
and,
such a thing exists.
and that the first 3 sets are no longer relevant in any sort of amount. Anyway,
Hypothetically, if the game exists, which we aren't sure, Tam's gonna look
level
into
around.
it.
there might be some power creep. Anyway.
Wizards always prints things right the first time, and
Yeah.
it's always relevant through the duration.
They've never made a
There's
mistake.
no way that the first base set had cards that needed power level errata.
Yep.
Anyway.
Yeah, so that's, Pokemon Home, and so then, you get to... They've modified Sword and Shield so that you can have more Pokemon added to it, so you can have the original Kanto starters.
Oh, cool.
You can do a whole bunch of crazy stuff involving the Pokemon Bank, so you could theoretically move stuff from the original Ruby, Silver, Emerald
So you're telling me.
to, Shield if the Pokemon still exists.
So you're telling me I can have a team entirely of Mareeps and Wooloos.
Whether or not you can actually use them yet is not a thing that I'm aware of.
Fair.
Because we
They're
still have these-
DLCing like 200 in or something. Right?
Yeah, they're gonna be DLCing to about 600 some total in their Pokedex. They do not have the national Pokedex for Sword and Shield, but you will have it. You do have it in the bank.
Yeah.
So I've already tinkered around with it a little bit, and since I had Let's Go, I already have a few Mewtwo's in my bank because we went hard on those raids, real hard. So yeah, that's outside of Magic. Inside of Magic, I've been trying to still make Mono Black happen, and it's just felt terrible. So we had and we'll be talking about this in the main show, but the World's decks have been posted, and so I took a look to see what people have been playing, and lo and behold, PV has a deck list of what my normal second choice is going to be, and that's Blue-White Control. So I played that a little bit last night,
Blue-White
and I got to tell you, it felt unbeatable. Like it just felt absurdly good. But I probably needed to play a lot more games to like really get an active sample size. But it plays very, very nicely considering it has like 2 win conditions in it.
Yeah, no, and actually,
Technically
I
5,
think with the
but-
World's deck list, I think we actually aren't covering those. Because this is going to air after Worlds. We're talking about the post-show, we're going to hit World's deck list, actually, because I want to talk about that, too. So, Yu-Gi-Oh! And World's deck list is post-show. Anything else in and out of Magic?
No, just those things.
All right, JC, you're up.
Inside of Magic, I ended up picking a pro and actually posted, like I promised, posting it on the last video.
Who'd you pick?
Thorolf Severin.
Okay.
I picked him because he's hilarious. I like his tweets and his posts. I think he's funny.
Of Arena Boys fame. Well, I think of actually like winning high profile tournament fame, but it still does the Arena Boys stuff, and they're pretty funny.
And he also did win a tournament having a Wormcoil Engines, the best 6-drop card as we previously talked about.
Still not the best. Still not even the best Titan. Zoo would play Tron, I take it.
What's that?
Was he playing Tron? I assume it was Tron.
He
Probably.
It had Walking Ballistas.
Yeah,
Yep,
okay.
yep.
The Urzatron lands
Yeah,
where,
yeah.
okay, Urza's Factory,
like
Urza's Workshop, Urza's Boudoir, those
Yeah,
ones.
I was gonna say like this was a vintage tournament, man. The stones on that dude for playing Wormcoil in that format. Like I mean, turn 2 Wormcoil's got to be good, right?
It can't be bad.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if your opponent's doing a whole bunch of things and casting a Yawgmoth Will and then giving you 10 drills, then it's probably not great. But if they don't do that, then you can swing for 6. That's pretty good.
Shout out
Gain
to Wormcoil
6.
Engine. Anyway, other than that, Inside of Magic, just kind of keeping track of a couple things. I heard a pretty good conversation about Wizard employees being underpaid and stuff like that so that's Inside of Magic. Outside of Magic, also playing Destiny 2.
Woo!
It has the most fun bow mechanics out of any game I've ever played ever.
1 down, 1 to go.
And
How many legendary Pokemon are in?
There's legendary weapons, and you can collect those all. And they're gold and shiny, Dave.
Oh, you have shinies in there too. That might be a deal breaker. Actually,
The game makes my brain make good chemicals.
And,
Because bars go up, Dave. Bars!
And otherwise, for people who don't live in the Midwest, I woke up this morning, it was -4 actual degrees.
Yeah, wind chill like negative
And then
20.
wind chill like -20.
The preferred nomenclature would be bullshit degrees.
Yeah.
That was. If you've ever had ice up your nose because you decided to have the audacity to breathe, Fuck the Midwest.
Welcome to the Midwest. Yeah.
Yeah,
Miserable.
so just dealing with weather and playing video games, and I gain weight in the winter, and it makes me sad. But that's because outside is nonsense.
It's real hard. I bought a treadmill, and like that is the only way that I have kept my working out up whatsoever. Because normally I run outside, but
Because I run
not
outside. Yeah, I'm very much like I'll go. I like my Pokemon Go in the summer is like, and then in the winter it's like.
I feel you there. Like I try and use that's why I have the stupid thing because it is a pedometer and it's not overly great, but when I'm running on a treadmill for like 40 minutes, then at least I get to get another shot at the Ultra League, which in the pre-show, Brett was pontificating about how bummed out, and a lot of other people are bummed out too, that they've changed to Ultra League instead of Great League. And
Great League is like any old person. Okay, anyway,
Also,
post show.
yeah. One more
Add
thing.
that one to the post-show list.
One more thing inside of Magic. My art video, top 5 art video, released.
Oh, nice.
Check it
Right.
out on the channel. It's fun.
I haven't seen that. I'll have to give that a look.
Yeah. So yeah.
Okay. We're gonna start the show. We're gonna start the show, and when I go to say that we're starting the show. We're gonna start topic 1, and I'm pulling out my phone because I want to make sure I'm giving y'all the right facts. Facts. Well, it's not necessarily what you come to this website for, but I don't want to mislead anyone. So the news right now is Frank Karsten, who pro Magic player. I think he might be retired from Magic. I don't know if he's actively.
I
playing
believe
right
he's
now.
a Hall of Famer.
Hall of Famer. Yeah,
90% on that.
Magic Hall of Famer. Who writes for Channel Fireball right now. So he has been writing a lot of meta-analysis articles.
It's a very popular Magic
He is
site.
the number guy.
Yeah,
he's
he's got a math background, I think. He's got a degree in math or something.
He has written some, even his fun articles are incredibly insightful and entertaining. I believe he was the one that wrote the what happened if every creature entered the battlefield at the same time.
That's a great article. That was super fun.
And it would reading it is this long list of all these absurd cases that happen. But wait, this would happen first.
And then at the end of it, it's like, well, there's a couple creatures that say creatures entering the battlefield don't cause abilities to trigger. So let's deal with that. No, it's a fun article. So he writes these so basically Channel Fireball runs a lot of the Magic the Gathering tournaments right now. So I think they're running GPs.
Specifically, Magic Fest, I believe, is the preferred nomenclature.
Which have the GPs within.
They have GPs, side events, PTQs, the whole shebang. I think they rebranded it as that, and technically the GP is just part of it. They're just changing it from the main event and then all the side GP events of Magic Fest. Here's the GP. Here are all the side events.
So the Channel Fireball is doing this, and so they have access to all of the deck lists and all the win percentages. So Frank has been writing these articles where he'll break down. So Pioneer, these are the decks, and this is all the decks in the field, and this is their win percentages, and this is that. So the news, we finally got to that, is they have been asked to stop doing that. So Wizards, it is their information, I believe, and so they have basically said, Channel Fireball, don't publish these articles anymore. And throughout the history of the game, there have been other places that gather data up, and Wizards has generally asked them to stop collecting those. Magic Online, there used to be info that people could scrape and access, and that is either people have been asked to stop or information access has been removed. Wizards no longer provides full Magic Online leagues. They'll give us samplings of the 5.0 decks, but they won't say what percentage of decks people are playing in formats. So there's kind of been it's not a new thing, but this Frank Karsten situation is new. Wizards has been saying we don't want this information put out there.
So question, there's tournaments that they just run, right?
Yeah.
Channel Fireball?
Channel Fireball?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're asking them to stop providing metadata on tournaments that they fund and run themselves.
Well, they've partnered to run. Wizards used to run certain tournaments, and I think they basically partnered with them as a large vendor to do it for them.
The idea of how Grand Prix used to work is there were a bunch of different companies, Channel Fireball being one of them, like Legion Events was another.
Sure.
I'm drawing a blank on something, but there were a decent amount.
So they were
it was like, okay, you pay us X amount of money for the right for this Grand Prix, and then you get to run this Grand Prix.
And sell your cards and sell tickets and do all this stuff.
And sell vendor booths, things like that. Think about it like they're franchising it out.
So Wizards of the Coast is still being overruling party.
Yeah. Wizards of the Coast is still in control, but they're going to give them a good degree of autonomy as far as how the events run, and they're getting a flat.
And these are
to put it in sports terms, I guess Magic or Wizards is the sanctioning body.
Yeah.
For the
and these tournaments feed into Worlds, and so basically they've asked them not to, and you don't bite the hand that feeds you, because if Channel Fireball said no, we do what we want, then somebody else will be running GPs.
They feed into the Pro Tours or Players Tours,
which eventually feed into Worlds. There's a confusing chart That's very hard to read because Magic is very hard to tell how this all works. So
which we can talk a little
Yeah.
bit about in
Well,
our
in
third
post,
topic.
we're gonna move on to that. So
Oh, shoot. We don't even have to go in post. Check that out, guys.
Yeah, that's the topic.
Efficiency.
stick around.
Yep.
Got there.
But so the Wizards isn't super public about this, and Karsten hasn't been super. I mean, there's only so much information he's provided on Twitter. But the idea, generally, the understanding on why this happens now and in the past is that Wizards doesn't want all this metagame data out there because it will make the format easier to break. So basically, if there is a best deck out there, a few hundred people design each set. And there's leagues within Wizards to try to test what the best decks are. They hire pros. But basically, a few hundred people at most have a hand in designing these cards and balancing them. And then they give them to us. So millions of us then try to break the format. So they do their best to make an interesting format. But there is very likely a best deck or a few best decks out there. And the more information people have access to, the hypothetically or in practice, it is easier to break the format and figure out what the best deck is. If you can see what people are bringing to the tournaments, you can better prepare for tournaments, and you can see win percentage. So if this deck always wins at this percentage, then this is the best deck. So Wizard wants to prevent
Why is
that and
that a
slow this
problem?
down. Now here's the thing. This pisses me off. Surprise, Brett's mad at something in Magic. Let's stop the presses. I don't like this. I don't like this block out of information.
I don't either.
Dave.
I like it.
Okay. Let's
Not just to be the contrarian either.
No,
Like,
no,
I actually think this is a pretty solid idea.
Let's talk about that a little bit before we go into why I'm not a fan.
So here's the logic that I have on it. It's been a problem that's been going around since probably about Zendikar, but not quite to this extent. Original Zendikar, where formats got solved far too quickly. When people realized that Jund was the best deck, 50% of the field roughly is going to be being Jund, and if Jund is the 55-45 matchup or better, then a lot of folks you're going to have a bad time. You're going to start going, man, I hate getting Blightning. I hate it. My opponent just gets to play Bloodbraid Elf into Blightning and just blow me out. And it's not necessarily just Jund that's the problem. I'm not saying that one's the problem, but there's always going to be some kind of best deck. There's going to be some kind of Jund-esque deck that is leaps and bounds better than the rest of it.
Pre-Theros, it seems like, for relevant reference, so pre-Theros, it seemed like it was the green-blue decks, the ramp decks.
So my question to that is that just a problem in QA and testing that the balance is
possible
poor enough that there is always a best deck and that slowing it down is an artificial mechanism to make up for the shortfall of not having enough quality testing and balancing? I
think that is a stopgap that they're putting in. I don't think that it's feasible that they can figure out every single instance with a standard format, even if they had literally thousands of playtesters. I don't think that that's something that would be reasonable. They'd have to have the right 1,000 playtesters.
There's more of us than there are of them.
Yeah,
it's kind of the idea.
I mean, that's true, but like. I know, like, video games are a bad example because then you could just balance it with patches
and that's what they got to do with Hearthstone and things like that, where you can just errata things almost on the fly. Like, if you realize that, I think it was Release the Hounds was one of the first combo decks with Hearthstone, they realized pretty quick, oh shit, this probably shouldn't be a thing, so they were able to change what Release the Hounds did. They managed to, like, they didn't have to ban anything. They just
and you can refund
on the fly.
And you're capable of refunding all your players because all cards are digital now.
Still though, like
I mean,
sorry that I'm
this is actually one of my arguments too.
But also, like, people, and I know this from like video games and other things where the metas are very much established, League of Legends, Final Fantasy, World of Warcraft, whatever. People like figuring that out. It's part of the fun that people have, figuring out what the meta is, then trying to like adapt to it.
I mean,
that feels like a point in favor of them withholding this information. Now your play groups are going to have a lot more value figuring out what the good decks are, what you can expect to see in a tournament.
I want to hit on that. But in an ideal world, I think design-wise, they would make a thing where there are A deck is good, better than B deck, but C is kind of better than A, and so you can kind of have a rock, paper, scissors, or 3 or 4.
But here's the thing. If the argument is that Magic is not a pay-to-win and that there is some player skill involved, and there is player, like, how you play involved in it, shouldn't it be that you can look at the metadata and look at these deck lists and, kind of figure out win percentages and stuff, and then try to make yourself better based on what you're seeing?
And so here's this. This is kind of the crux of why this bothers me, actually. So on Carson's Twitter, somebody asks, So really quick, there are pro teams. So a lot of times pros will work together. They will form a team. A company like Channel Fireball has a pro team.
Sure.
Will pay a group of pros. They might write articles, but then they say like, okay, they'll have the little Channel Fireball logo next when they go to tournaments, and so that's something that and teams will generally test together. So someone's like, so does Channel Fireball's team get access to this data? And Frank Carson's like, he's like, I'm not the person to answer that question. I don't believe they do.
Now that feels like a very interesting question there. If that's the case, then that puts Team Channel Fireball at a huge advantage compared to everyone else.
But here's the other thing. But on that advantage thing, so pro teams generally, some Magic pros are good and lucky enough to be Magic pros full time. And they can test, and they can play Magic online all day, and they have their little pro group where they can say, what is every deck in the metagame? We're going to play 100 games with each deck and try to figure that out. So let's say, Dave, you want to try to get into the Pro Tour. You work a 40-hour job, and so Magic's a side thing. It has to be. You got to pay rent. So you don't get to. So if this information,
I've worked 2 jobs before. Like I've pulled 80-hour weeks before. It sucks, but it's possible.
But so let's say you don't have the luxury of doing Magic full time. If you have access to this metagame data, you have a lot of the same tools as the pros do. You can have people like Frank Karsten and people who are good at the numbers break it down. You can look at the tournament stuff and you can go, okay, this is what the meta looks like. All right. If that information is limited to us, the pros and the pro teams, even if they don't have insider information, which it's possible they do. I'm not saying they do, but like if Channel Fireball has a team and pros and info, that seems fishy at the very least, or at least it raises a couple eyebrows. But even if they get to sit around and test all day, they get to go in and be pros while Joe Schmo doesn't even get an analysis.
Now, does this add possibly the opening of a secondary market where pro teams actually start publishing their own data?
Well, I mean, so some websites will put their articles behind paywalls, and if you want to have access to the people who test all day's stuff, you got to pay for it.
That's primarily Star City, I think.
Yeah,
I don't know who else has the paywall.
Star City moved entirely to paywall recently.
Oh, really?
Yeah, every article comes out 2 weeks afterwards, but if you want it now, it is paywall.
Can I still pull up the Bruce article like I do every year?
I don't know. They fucked their whole site up. It was this whole thing where they changed. I used to use them a lot. I kind of switched over to Card Kingdom, but they changed their website. Their old articles were hard to find. Maybe they fixed it by now, but I remember last month or a month and a half ago, it was this whole mess where they mess it all up and they put this new thing out with a lot of testing and their search function sucks.
Sorry,
but anyway,
it just always cracks me up. The moment in our podcast when we hit we're not a COPPA video safe anymore. YouTube. The child protection, there's always a random loud F word, and it's now this is
mostly
not for
silent
kids.
with that. So
Anyway.
no, I made that abundantly clear. I'm going to use the fuck word frequently.
Yeah.
Can we edit that out in post?
I don't think we're live.
I think. Oh,
Yeah.
we can't. We can't edit live.
No, we can't edit
Audio?
live yet.
I digress.
All right.
Paywalls, secondary
But
market for data.
it makes me uncomfortable. First off, hiding information makes me feel uncomfortable. I don't like what it represents.
If hiding information is across the board and everyone's at the same disadvantage, I have no problem with that.
But
now keep in mind, as far as being a pro player goes, no man is an island.
Yeah.
You have to if you legitimately want to get on the Pro Tour, if you want to play Magic at a high level consistently, you need a team. There's just no two ways about it.
The professor at
You
Tellurian
cannot do it on your own.
Tellurian Community College did a great video on it, and that's one of the things. It's you need to make a testing team. And people out there who want to break into it, who are just playing by themselves, you need a team.
Yeah, in all honesty, you might win a couple of times, but if you want to consistently do well,
You want to be those names who show up at Worlds.
you
You want to
have
be
to test.
consistent.
Yeah.
You have to test. It's just I don't like things that put barriers between the everyman and the highest tier of play. And I just don't like the idea that there's information that could be beneficial to people making it up there that is restricted because Wizards doesn't want the meta solved or whatever.
So I'm okay if they do this for sanctioned events and sanctioned data, if there becomes an established secondary market of pro teams that take it upon themselves to publish their own data about the meta.
But a lot of times, sometimes pros will come up with the right deck and try to keep it quiet, and then then 6 people will roll into a tournament with a deck.
That's true too.
But that's going to happen even with the data published.
Because you have the answer. Why would you put your data out there?
That is one of the reasons why some pros, LSV in particular, have alternate accounts on Magic Online. If people know that his moto name is LSV, so if all of a sudden LSV is 5-0ing consistently with some really weird rogue brew deck, then okay, this is probably something that's going to break the meta.
Yeah.
But no one's going to take a second look at Swedish Kibler or M Bison.
So
He's recorded videos.
So
with
what
that
you're
as well.
telling me
there's sweet alternate names, by
is
the way.
that Magic needs to move out of paper and just onto online so that they can constantly rebalance and we can have this data.
Then I think we're playing a completely different game.
We are.
I like paper cards.
Like I am a fan of the mistakes up to a certain point. Like I would like more opportunities to play with Fast Bond, and the only reason I say that is because I haven't had to play against Fast Bond very often.
There's a narrow window of time where Fast Bond wasn't banned in Duel Commander. So like turn 1 Captain Sisay.
That sounds
Fast
like
Bond.
that sounds like I would like to eat a big old bowl of tax. No milk, just one at a time. Make sure that it stabs the roof of my mouth. I'd rather do that.
And then you'd
than
like
play Duel Commander with fucking Fast Bond.
You'd loyal retainers Iona in on like turn 2 or 3. It was awesome.
Sounds great.
That deck was sweet.
That sounds great. That sounds very balanced.
So basically, are we kind of coming down on the opinion of this sucks philosophically, but because of the situation as it is, this is a good way to keep the format interesting for as long as it can be?
I think that things are going to shift. Well, yeah. I mean, for the most part, yeah. It's going to prevent us from solving the format very quickly.
I'd rather the information out there. If the format gets solved, Wizards needs to do their best to have a kind of fluctuating meta. And if everyone is like, oh, if Jund is the best deck, then metagame against Jund. Like, I don't like, personally, I think it's wrong. I think the information should be put out there. And I think... Even if it's going to bring issues, and back in the day it wasn't this prevalent, we can consume information so much faster than we could 5-10 years ago. It irks me. I think the problems with having the data available is a manageable thing, and I'd rather it be there and us have to deal with maybe things get stale a little quicker than have the information kind of removed or sidelined, or have the pros have better resources than everybody else. So personally, I think it's wrong.
Well, keep in mind, I mean, I think that the pros are also going to make the same mistakes that we will. Think about how long it took for people to realize how you're supposed to play Brainstorm properly, or how you're supposed to play Boomerang.
I mean,
these cards have been printed multiple times before somebody finally realizes, oh shit, if I'm on the play, I can just Boomerang back their first land, and that's like a Stone Rain, and that's a huge tempo advantage. And now we don't get Boomerang.
Tam, did you have something you wanted to say?
So, my personal opinion is to put the information out there, to put it in there, and another aspect of this is there's an argument to be made that there's only like 60 correct cards in a deck. You could say, right? Mm-hmm. If you want to look at it in a very limited sense, like there are 60 correct cards to play ratio-wise and all of that. And the more information that you have out there, it's no longer about the fun gotcha decks, but it's actually more about player interaction as opposed to the text interaction of, in this situation, what do you do with these good cards, as opposed to, oh, my deck is just significantly worse than yours.
I mean, and it's tricky because it's no fun when 8 copies of Ka Blade show up in a top 8 like they did, but the seeing the best players in the world play the best deck in the world against each other that makes for some actually really intense, interesting matches.
Totally, 100%.
Sorry?
Yeah, 100%. And that's what I'm saying.
And here's another thing too. I feel like maybe if you have this data kind of more analyzed and out there and stuff like that, you kind of prevent everyone coming to a tournament and playing Oko kind of thing.
The only thing that I saw during that period that got a decent amount of people not playing Oko was when they said it will give you a box of Modern Horizons for whoever has the highest standing going into the top 8 without Oko.
Because there was just nothing.
Shout out to Johnny.
There's nothing you could do.
Right? I mean, and that's the thing. It's like Wizards needs. Like, it's harder to say just design better. Like they have a really hard job. But when we get to the world's deck lists, the world's deck lists are really varied. There are 4 different decks in the top 16, and there's variations within those decks. But like, as of right now, we had access to a lot of this. I think a lot of Carson stuff was Pioneer. But like, we had access to. I think some of the information was standard. I might be wrong on that, but
it all depends. Like whatever. Like he's analyzing whatever the most interesting thing that week's going to be.
So like
for that article, like when you're looking at Oko and standard, that's what he's going to want to do his information off of.
But we'll talk about this in the post show a bit. But like, maybe Blue White's the best deck in the format, but not every pro showed up with it. So like, there's a way to create a metagame where there are best decks, but you still have some like, oh, this person's running this, and there's like someone's running like the Narset combo with the that blue white wheel spell. So like, people are doing some weird stuff.
Oh, that's standard legal, isn't it?
Yeah, that's in a Worlds deck. I think there's a one-up. Emergency Powers Narset is in a Worlds deck.
Toffles?
I'm not sure whose deck it is, but like, so
That
that's the
sounds
thing,
like
is,
that's because it's not PVs.
I would rather this info out there so everyone has a chance to get into it.
Yeah, because like I just don't know how much I like the putting this artificial barrier to make a thing more interesting longer when really it was just a balance problem in the first place.
So it's like, I think I'd rather see this information out there and Wizards do their damnedest to have a balanced format or be willing to ban when it's not.
They've shown a willingness to
Yeah,
ban.
they've shown
if
a
we,
willingness
if we've
to
learned
do it,
anything from when we started doing this podcast, it is certainly that.
And maybe this is too, maybe I'm just letting my personal feelings color this opinion too much, but I don't like it when information is withheld first because it's good for us. Oh, it'll make you happier, so we're going to keep... Fuck that. I don't like that. That makes me uncomfortable. I know this is a children's card game, and this is not life or death, but I don't like information being withheld.
So just so we all know, Brett's on the record of being for the Freedom of Information Act.
Yeah, he's making those FOIA requests like crazy.
No comment on FOIA requests. I'm an online investigator. Those are in my life. No comment. No comment on FOIA requests.
I might have hit it a bit too close to home. I apologize.
It's fun. No, it's
You can take a pot shot at phone service and internet service at me later. Don't
I
worry.
actually gave a whole talk at work on how even if you don't know direct information, basically it was a conversation on how the answer I can't confirm or deny things is useful, because if you could confirm even tangentiary details, you get to form an outline of a thing that gives you like enough information.
You know,
that phrase has a really interesting history. I read an article, but that is a total digression.
Yeah,
Anyway.
that's weird because I think I did along those lines when talking about a hypothetical situation and cited Area 51. Well, there are aliens in there, right? No, they're not any aliens. Well, what's in there then? Well, we can't tell you. Well, it's aliens. No, they're not going to, like, we're neither going to confirm nor deny
the existence of anything.
Because you can't
if you start
allow
playing
people
20
to
questions, you figure out what's in Area
you figure
51.
it out based on the shape of what you're seeing.
So it's got
on
weapons. It's a
these
weapons lab.
questions.
No, it's not a weapons lab. Okay, it's not a weapons lab. Okay,
so-
anyway, we're gonna move on to topic 2. But first,
But that was yeah.
Anyway,
I'm
sorry,
trying to tie it back.
the final
I
thought.
was trying to tie it back.
Final
to this.
non-Area 51. Okay, no, that's a good point. What's up? What did I miss?
Fine. I started laughing hard, and then I realized the me laughing hard was kind of funny. So I laughed
Laughing at your own laugh is it's a bad cycle. Sorry, final thoughts before we move on. I grabbed the reins too hard, and then I hurt the horse's mouth. I don't know. The metaphor breaks down.
I think it's a sucky cure to a sucky problem, but in a very like we need this because it's a real thing kind of way. I think that's where I come down on it.
Okay. No, I mean, it's not. I don't think like you're definitely wrong. It's like, it's like I see why they'd want to do it, but it makes me feel icky inside.
I have this to say. I think it's time to go back to the lab and start brewing up some sweet rogue brews. I think that's what this means. If everybody's in the dark, then time to make some cool brews. Since you're not going to be battling against the best
that's a
deck
good
every
segue.
time.
And it's a great
into-
segue.
Oh, yeah.
But first, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to take a quick word from our sponsors, and then we're going to be back with topic 2. And if you want to watch ad-free, Patreon $1, you can watch the whole heckin' live show.
That's a quarter a week.
Quarter a week.
It only takes a quarter.
All right, so to the ads. All right, thank you, me. This episode is sponsored by Nuclear Ink Custom Tattoo and Skateshop. At Nuclear Ink, you will find a very inclusive environment with artists that share your interests in nerd culture and fandoms alike. So I actually met Jesse, the guy down at Nuclear Ink. I actually met him at Krypton Comics.
He plays magical cards, right?
Yeah, he plays 40K, he plays Magic. He's a super cool guy.
Fancy cards.
40K.
Yeah, 40K. We play the same armies. We both play Space Wolves. It's super awesome.
Okay. For whatever reason, I always picture tattoo artists that play 40K like being super into Necrons, and that is a breath of fresh air that someone is not.
He might also
and-
do Necrons. I don't know. I'll have to bug him next time so I can give the deets on his full 40K
Like
list.
as a person who doesn't have a tattoo yet, like I would invariably get something nerdy and stuff like that. So I think that it is good to walk into a place where it's like my nerdiness isn't being laughed at, also with my lack of tattooedness.
Yeah, no, they're super cool. Jesse's a great guy. Multiple loved ones who have tattoos from this parlor, I can say they look great. Like, really, if you're thinking about a tattoo and you're in the Omaha area, it's a great one. So, yeah, Nuclear Ink, they pride themselves on being Omaha's premier all-custom tattoo shop. So if you're looking to get a custom tattoo, check out Nuclear Ink here in Omaha, Nebraska, and we've got a link in the description. Super cool.
Cool.
This episode is also brought to you by InkedGaming.com. Are you looking to get a custom playmat? Then we suggest you check out InkedGaming.com. They have custom playmats, dice bags, mouse pads, all sorts of stuff. So like I am, as I brought up in the last time I recorded one of these, my whole computer setup is just playmats.
Yeah.
And so I think I've got a Innistrad Dark Ascension Championship mat.
Just stacks and stacks of ink mats.
No, I don't. I'm just like my computer setup. So I play. If you're playing a shooter, you don't give yourself a little mouse pad. You need to lower that DPI. And you need to give yourself like a full it's an arm movement thing. That's how you get good at shooters.
Really? I mean, I was always a big fan of. I feel like you get an unnatural advantage using a controller.
You're wrong. You're incorrect. My roommate plays on a controller. He plays Destiny on a controller at his PC, and it's infuriating. So, Age Gaming, they've got these mats, and so like really, if you play Magic or if you just do gaming stuff, all sorts of stuff, your favorite Magic characters, if you want to do something like this, so they've added a stitched option onto their playmats and mouse pads as well, which are super awesome, and it makes them last extra long because sometimes the playmats will start to kind of come up by the edges.
Oh, they just look nice too. They
Yeah.
just look
It looks
fantastic.
professional.
So Ancient Gaming, it lets you play your game in your style. If you want to get 10% off your order, use TCG University, all caps, no spaces. Check it out. It helps us, and it's going to help you customize your gaming in style. And finally, this show is brought to you by Cards Custom Builds. Are you into cosplay or looking to get into cosplay, or do you want to show up to events dressed as your favorite character? So Cards Custom Build is going to be able to help you out. They create everything from cosplay accessories like props, trinkets, weaponry, all the way up to full total costumes. If you want a cosplay costume made from perfectly flowing cloth, or if you want rigid battle armor, Cards Custom Build is going to get you covered. Their work is guaranteed to make you the talk of the con. So Tam, this is Tam's dad, or producer Tam, who's been talking throughout the episode. Or he's going to be talking to the episode. We're recording these in the future. Anyway, his dad does this stuff. It's his shop, and so Tam was sending me some of these things on Facebook Messenger, which it did a weird thing where it sent me like the same picture 30 times in a row, and I thought Tam was fucking with me. But no, really, it's super cool stuff. You sent me the Yoshi one where it's like Mario riding Yoshi in one costume, so like the legs are out.
Yeah.
Sent me the Boba Fett armor, which is
Mandalorian armor.
Mandalorian,
Thank you very
much. This was specifically Boba Fett armor. This was the Boba Fett's
which is kind of Mandalorian.
Yes,
armor.
but I was giving the specific Mandalorian.
He's a Mandalorian clone, per the fantastic canon that everyone
And
loves.
let's face it, if you are watching this podcast, this is at least tangential to your interests.
Yeah, no, I feel like So Tam, it's got a ton of super cool stuff. Tam, what's one of your favorite ones he's done that we haven't mentioned?
So in the episode, we talk a little bit about UFS, and I actually go to every UFS major dressed as the character that I'm playing as.
Nice.
So Dave's actually picking up the Vega mask. I went and I played at Nationals as Vega. And it would be super, super easy for if you've got a favorite Planeswalker to go to Cards Custom Build on Facebook and dress up as your favorite Planeswalker.
Now, did he help out with that Dr. Wily costume that you had a while back?
He did help out with the Dr. Wily costume. He's made Dr. Wily, he's made Vega, he made a CA costume from King of Fighters, and he's also done things like he's made an entire Bumblebee costume. He took a Power Wheels car, one of the ones that like you have a 5-year-old drive around in, and he chopped it up in his garage, and he's made Bumblebee, he's made Optimus Prime, he made a full life-size Han Solo and Carbonite mold.
Oh, that's cool.
That somebody is using as the door to their man cave. It's
awesome.
It's like it is crazy how intense he gets with stuff.
Oddly enough, we'll do it in post.
his biggest project that he's working on right now is he's making Wally, an animatronic, can roll around, eyes move, talk to you, hands move, grab stuff. Like he's
That's
making
awesome.
Wally.
So that sounds fantastic. So that's just the leap, step, and jump away from getting an R2 unit made by him, or maybe a Dalek.
Well, he has already made an R2 unit. He has one. It's sitting in our basement. I'm positive that Tyler can put pictures up. His work is good enough that he was actually in the Omaha Children's Museum for an entire month.
Nice.
When people were talking about heroes for hire and how to be a hero. They took all of his costumes of Superman, Batman, Flash, Iron Man, War Machine, Spider-Man, and put them all up inside of the Omaha Children's Museum
That's
for a whole
awesome.
month.
That's cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, if it's good enough for the Omaha Children's Museum, it's good enough for your guys' cons for
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
That is true.
Okay, so yeah, one more time. So you want to go to Cards Custom Build on Facebook or on their Etsy account. We've got links below. And if you mention that you came from TCG University, you're going to get 5% off your entire order. So yeah, check them out. They're really super awesome. And we're going to throw it back to the show. Welcome back, everyone. We are going to move right on. So we were talking about
Everyone
Rogue
being in the
Brews.
dark and Rogue Brews.
So we're going to talk about net decking. So this term might be a little...
May I?
We're
Go,
old,
Dave, take it
old
away.
the
Take it
Magic
away.
players.
So as far as net decking goes, it's not a term that I've heard very often in outside of a historical context. If you start, reading some old articles from, things like Inquest and Duelist from about that time, like Onslaught-ish era, you start seeing the word net decking, and that's kind of a, it's kind of a dirty word. It's a dig. It's like, you filthy net decker. Well, that's really not a thing anymore because we've all come to the conclusion that formats will get solved. That or
if there's multiple decks, there's probably a best version of a deck, or there might be better versions. But just really quick for people who are totally in the dark, net decking is going online to the net. One could say, hip radical youth. Oh God,
Boo.
And boo Brett.
Al Gore.
boo this man.
And getting a deck list online, putting it together, and just playing straight off the internet. And this is, like Dave was saying, historically there's kind of been some like, oh, you're not creative. Magic is a deck building game, so if you're not building your deck, you aren't a real Magic player or some gatekeepy thing like that.
The old saying is something to the effect of you don't get bonus points for being creative. That's not how this works. Like what you're not going to get to, you don't get to start the game at 25 life because you made your own deck.
No.
Like that's not how that works.
And I've run into this personally. I've met people who kind of shake their head at something like that. And don't get me wrong, I love the creative aspect of Magic. I do that all sorts of time in Brawl and Commander, but whenever I play a new standard deck, so I was playing a mono green deck that I saw on Reddit that looked cool. Somebody said I made it to Mythic with mono green. I bookmarked it on Reddit. When I got home, I opened that Reddit thread. I hit the copy link from the website they had used. I hit the import button on Magic Arena. The deck appeared on my computer. I hit craft wildcards and I started playing. I played a red deck that seemed cool. I Googled Magic Arena best of one mono red, found a deck, hit that import button, hit the export button, hit that import button, hit the craft button, and I was playing a new deck. And I love
It's
that.
modern net decking.
It is. And so that is.
The process has been streamlined as far as being able to copy from your clipboard or import a text file for Moto.
So I guess that is to say the lab, as it were, is the lab important?
Is the lab?
So we were talking last, go back to the lab, craft crazy brews. But if you're just importing your decks and then that's what you're playing with, are you really crafting crazy brews as part of your game?
See, that's the thing. I don't, for standard in particular, I don't
You're
brew.
not. Certainly not. I mean, it's been a while since I've felt the want to do it. Like when Pioneer came out, obviously, I think everybody went, "Oh, cool! It's best to standard." Sure. What was my favorite standard deck? So I threw Paradox Engine and a whole bunch of Mana Rocks together, and that didn't work out.
This is kind of why I like it.
It's not a good idea. But it's when it goes off, you feel like a genius.
Yeah.
When it doesn't, it's real bad.
I mean, it's like kind of why I like drafting because honestly, you have to put like building skills to use and creativity skills.
And
to
so,
use.
and I love limited. I love sealed. I love draft. I love that skill. But here's what. So if I don't know if this is like net decking good or bad. I don't know if that's this topic because I don't know how. Maybe we're gonna come down on net decking's fine. That's how I come down for sure. I'm busy. I have a full-time job. Magic is a hobby. I do a magic show. But I have other things I like to do. I like film. I like video games. I spend time with my loved ones. I don't have the time or the money or the desire to proxy decks up to test out should my red deck have 4 Ember Cleaves or 2 Ember Cleaves. So I'm going to go online. Yeah. Maybe I look at 3 or 4 decks. I'm going to find decks with cards that I have in my arena collection, or I'm just going to go, I like this pro, I'm playing his deck. Sure. And I love that. I love that because here's the thing. I am not as good as Magic pros are. Even if I was as good, which I'm not, I don't have the time to dedicate to the game. So if I'm playing something, I'm going to look online, I'm going to find something I like, because I just don't have all that much time. Every now and then I'll build a wacky commander deck and try and cast all the epic spells at the same time, because that can be fun. Right. But this bitterness, and if you are a brewer and you want to go to F&M and try to outthink everybody, that is awesome, and I think that's a great way to enjoy the game. But any animosity against someone for net decking is absurd. I am not smarter than the pros, and you are probably not smarter than the pros. Fair. And so if I am here because I enjoy Magic and I want to play good technical games with good decks, I'm going to net deck, and I'm not going to feel. I'm going to net
Well,
deck, and I'm not going to feel guilty for doing it. The idea,
And I think this relates back to the last topic because of that. Then, like, so I'm grabbing the deck online. Shouldn't I know the metadata for how this deck performs online too?
yeah, that's why I like that. I'd rather live in a world where we have access to the best minds' decks, and I can say, oh, here's the deck that 60% of the players at this tournament were playing. I'm going to make it on Arena, and I'm going to play it. And I don't have to worry. I don't have to do all this analysis. Now I have to get good at the deck. I'm going to have to try and tune my... Maybe that's where I go...
try to tune your gameplay and become a better player.
I can go from a 45% win rate to a 55% win rate. I've got a good deck, and now it's on me and player skill and all sorts of stuff. So I'm really pro net decking, and like particularly people are like, oh, I'm starting Magic. It's like, if you want to start tournament Magic, go online, find a deck that looks cool, and buy it or craft it, because I think that is a good way to start. I don't think this idea that like... you need to brew up some 75 card deck or 60 card deck if you're just playing best of one. I think it's great for new players. I think it's great for players who don't have the time or energy or skill to brew. I'm very pro net decking. Did either of you feel in opposition to that? I'm really curious.
So I'm not against it. I just want to bring up this topic because I feel like it's natural evolution to like how much data about these decks should you get to know, and how much should be blacked out in interest of like preserving a meta, and like how that goes. So
yeah, I mean, for me, it's free information. Give it all, and I'm going to net deck and use the information. That's where I land. Dave, where do you come down?
I mean, I'll definitely take a look at the decks to have an idea of what people are playing. Kind of, going back to our first topic where they were talking about this is what the metagame breakdown is. This is what's being played, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of the times, what I've liked to do in the past is pull up decks that maybe aren't represented too much, but seem like they would be theoretically strong in a field and go from there.
Right.
Like, I generally don't like playing the best deck in the format because it feels like there's a target on your head. If your opponent are playing main deck sideboard cards that are good against specifically you, you're gonna. It feels like you're just gonna have a bad. You're gonna have a bad turn.
If a graveyard
deck, have a really bad deck.
Graveyard deck in Modern is the best deck, and everyone is running 6 to 8 pieces of graveyard hate in the sideboard, and you can find a deck that doesn't interact with the graveyard and is good, you blank a bunch of their sideboard cards. So there's like Dave said, that is a whole. There's a whole different layer to that, and that's one of the reasons I like the data.
Let's go with the most extreme example there. So your opponent opens up turn 0 in game 1 with double Line of the Void. They just mulligan to 5.
Yeah,
like, I don't care.
I'm playing blue-white control, and I don't do anything with my graveyard. So great, you start with a 5-card hand, and I can now. You have.
Congratulations, opponent. You just mulligan. Same thing with playing something like Duress in the main deck. Your opponent goes turn 1 swamp, Duress you. Oh,
and
look,
I go
you get to look at my hand. That was a really cool pick.
And I have
that
mountain, 3 1/1s, 4 1/1s with haste.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm gonna play a bunch of creatures and kill you now.
Yeah, creatures and lands. All right, my turn. Cool. And obviously you're gonna rip the instant right off the top.
Oh yeah. Then the Embercleave comes in.
Yeah. Then you draw the Embercleave. But that's generally where I fall on it. I do not have a problem with net decking at all. And in a lot of cases, I'm like, I want to play this weekend. I don't know what I want to play. All right, which deck looks like it's the best? Try out a couple of them, and then when I figure out which one I want to play, then that's the one that I'll get.
I mean, I think when Eric was on the show and he won Grand Prix Omaha, right? I'm pretty sure he had never played. See, he literally I need to borrow a deck and a sideboard guide. I need a deck and a sideboard guide, and someone handed him a deck, and he went on to win with it. And it's like I think.
Oh, he had everything for the deck. He just not played Pot before.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like
he picked up Pod the night before
and then won with it. So I think there's a skill to that, and it's just like it's hard to stay up with the tournament scene, but this is what the metagame. It's the game outside of the game. This is what I like about the metagame. This is why I want the information available, because that's the thing. You can say, what's the best deck? I'll play it. Or you can say, what's the best deck? 65% of the field's going to be playing this. Yeah. What are these decks? Yeah. How are these decks' win rates going? I'm going to play this. And then maybe you break in and go, okay.
Or like 13% of the field is playing this, but they're winning a lot.
Yeah.
And maybe this isn't being recognized.
It's looking like you can even look at it from the perspective of this is a rock, paper, scissors meta. So the best deck's rock. A lot of people are going to be playing paper.
Maybe play scissors.
If you expect most of the field to be paper, why not play scissors?
And I remember I used to watch a lot of Star City.
There's an oversimplification.
But that's what I like the information out there going to be available for. I used to watch a lot of Star City Games Legacy, and there were parts of the country where people would play different kinds of decks. And so if you're on the East Coast, people generally, because Legacy decks are expensive and they build their decks, so people tend to play this. So I think there is a fun kind of meta game where you start going in. It's like, okay, here's the best deck, but now I'm going to change the sideboard, or I'm going to change these few cards. And the pros have figured out this is where we want to be on 4 Ember Cleaves, but maybe the 2-drop slot, maybe it should or shouldn't be Robber the Rich.
Yeah.
That's actually a really good thing a good point that I hadn't quite figured out yet. But if this information is being withheld, then I think that regional metas are probably going to become a thing again. I mean, they kind of were beforehand, but if no one's really sharing all this information, then yeah, that's gonna be a thing.
Yeah, so if you're like, you've got a big shop in your area. Where all the pros play, and so they're doing that, so that's going to change. But maybe Seattle's going to look different from here, and maybe that's okay. But I don't know. I kind of like being on the cutting edge, and because as long as there's not in a world where we have like Oko and all this stuff, and this is clearly the best. But like if we live in a world like right now, the world's decks look really cool, and so like this is awesome. I like this information being available, and maybe a deck emerges here that's like, okay, it's too good, but like the format doesn't seem super duper solved right now. So I think we can have this information and a format that isn't solved. It's just harder to design that. And I know that's hard to say. Wizards just do a good job 100% of the time.
Yeah.
But Wizards, just try to do your best when you don't ban stuff. Come on. It's fine.
Do good, Wizards.
Wizards, just do good.
You have arguably the best card game on the planet, and you have a whole bunch of money. I expect greatness out of you.
Yeah, just don't. We don't want the metagame data because it makes our job harder. I'm sorry, Wizards, but just do good. The information should be out there. I love that. I love that someone on Reddit can say, "Here's a cool deck." I can go, "I love Nylea." I love that in 4 clicks I can have someone else's deck playing, and Arena's going to even start letting you borrow friends' decks. That's something that's in the pipeline.
So basically, I just wanted to come down on, if we're going to talk about information blacking out, then we need to talk about net decking, because if net decking is okay, then why is not getting more data and analysis about the metagame not okay?
Yeah, and that's exactly it. So you tell them, there might be a newer player who goes, "Oh, net decking seems unfair." It's like, I'm not as smart as the pros, and that's the same thing. It's like, well, how do I metagame into the tournament? I'm not as smart as the pros. Let me have access to this info, everybody. Yeah. Don't let the person who has a bigger team or more money or more time have an advantage because they can try to piece the meta together, where Joe Schmo 9 to 5 really wants to try to break into that, and that's his dream, and now there's another hurdle in his way. Yeah. I don't know. Kind of coming back to topic 1 a little bit.
Or especially even just figuring out like where you are with. I think it can make you a better player if you have some of that meta-analysis data, because you're not just grabbing the deck and then trying to like, think through it and try to test when you can, because you don't have a big play group or anything like that. So you're trying to hack that deck where you could play it out a lot more in your mind if you have some of the meta-analysis for that.
It makes it easier for everyone to compete at that highest level when that stuff's available. And I think I don't want to generalize, but I think there's kind of a newer player mentality of net decking's not fair. And I think that's just something, if you have that mentality, maybe I'm wrong about a lot of stuff. I would try to get over that.
And I think so. A lot of the things I do when I'm building stuff that I want to try out and stuff like that is I'll get kind of a general idea. Like I'll look up a couple decks and something like that, and then I'll like kind of shut it off and I'll build something, and then like I'll compare it and like see not where I went wrong really, but like what's a better idea.
No,
and it makes me a better player.
I do that in Commander all the time. EDH Rack is a great website. Now you could go to EDH Rack and just click your commander and build your deck totally out of that. Normally, I'll pull a pile, and then I'll go to EDH Rack, and I went, oh my gosh, I forgot that Sundial of the Infinite with Perforos makes it so I get to keep my huge creatures. In that goes, which it does, and that's awesome.
So I think even to a degree, you can do that with Standard and stuff, too. Like, you can build, like, a mono black deck, and you can try it out, and then you can, like, look up other decks that are winning a lot more and see what's different.
If they're running different things, how they're main decking. So I just think it makes you a better player. I think playing other people's decks and playing a pro's deck and doing this and figuring out what works. And then
I think it does too.
And then you can take it to whatever meta you're at, be it a local FNM or a big tournament you're going to try to like ace everybody out on something crazy. It's not saying never play a creative deck, but the idea that you, some rando Magic player, is going to somehow discover something. And here's the other thing. Maybe you are that guy, because every now and then someone just comes up with a new deck. And like the Ironworks, Cart Clan Ironworks in Modern deck, that just kind of like, someone just like, oh, this is good.
KCI existed previously, but not in Modern. So I think that was someone finally going, oh, we are at a critical max of cards that work with this deck. You could always go back to, Travis Wu.
Yeah.
and he was responsible for Living End. And Living End just kind of came out of nowhere. And as far as I know, Living End's still absolutely playable in Modern.
So, I mean, I think, yeah, no, I mean, I don't pay a ton of attention to Modern, but yeah, I think that since it's been around, that's a deck to some degree. And so hypothetical viewer who disagrees with me, and it's like, no, if you're that person, then you know what? Embrace that. Do your own creative brewing. Try not to judge people because you don't know what someone's life is like. But if you want to just brew your own stuff, do it. And if you're the person who breaks open a format, that is awesome.
Yeah.
Be Saffron Olive if you want to be the person who goes, oh, wow, this deck is accidentally awesome.
And in the best of segue ways, I think this really segues on to our next topic, tournament ambiguity, and how good is this as a spectator sport?
Magic is an esport. Really, does any final thoughts on Dave? Do you have anything on Netdecking before we move on?
No.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure we're all good. JC, you're good on Netdecking?
I'm good.
Okay.
Just
Yeah.
everyone
Not
make
trying
sure
to take
that-
the reins.
No.
there
We
from
should
you,
keep
but
moving
I
along.
just think it's a really natural
Yeah.
segue, and I
These topics,
like it.
sometimes our topics don't gel this well, but no. So so we've been talking about Worlds a lot, and so if you are watching this live, Worlds is going to be this coming weekend, the 15th and the 16th. Actually, I think the 14th through the 16th. If you're watching this on Monday, Worlds just happened. So hello, future people, you can see what happened.
Hello, the
Yeah,
future.
could you guys tell us who won Worlds?
Yes.
Please
Anybody?
do comment.
Yeah, comment who won Worlds, and
This
Sam,
is like
let us know when we get the comment of who won.
This
Yes.
is like that science experiment where you hold a convention for future time travelers and just see if anyone comes.
And announce, yeah.
So it's like
Well, you have to announce it next week.
right now, I'd like to prove time travel is real. Someone from the future comment in Discord.
Some next level time travel shit right there. Anyway, Magic as an esport. So one of the Reddit thread that first got me onto this whole Frank Karsten info blackout situation. Somebody Magic is a new esports team that was on Reddit, and someone was like, "How do we tag Magic esports? Because this is not what an esport should be doing." A lot of times, so esports are. I think esports are a legitimate thing, but esports are, as they kind of have risen into legitimacy, or have struggled to rise into legitimacy.
StarCraft.
Risen.
Yeah,
You said
words.
Rosen.
Rosen.
As they have kind of
Resining.
moved closer to legitimacy, or maybe you think they haven't, sports are all about stats.
They are.
That is a huge part of sports, and I think it's fair to say it's a huge part of esports.
I mean, to be fair, they're also about athleticism and skill, but
yes, but yes, that's obviously you can't have sports without those things, but numbers matter a ton when it comes to that, and people are interested in the numbers. That's a big part of enjoying. A lot of people who like baseball love them some numbers.
also
which
because
judgment.
we're not far away from it. Kobe.
Oh
Anyway,
yeah. F.
Press F to pay respects.
F.
We're millennials. You have to, yeah.
God, I thought that was a Zoomer thing, but all right.
I don't know
that's-
what's a Zoomer
yeah, I
thing
don't
anymore.
know.
That game, Zoomers were all in elementary school when that game came out. That's a millennial thing. That's ours.
I think it's a millennial thing.
Anyway, but so Magic Wizards wants Magic to be an esports. They have an esports team. They are pushing tournaments. They're trying to make Worlds viewable and watchable. It's all on Arena. That's why we're doing this weird
Putting
thing
it on Twitch, right?
where we're
Yeah.
I mean, that's why we're in Arena. They're like, they want Wizard Worlds all in Arena. So like, we're gonna draft in paper and then import the decks to Arena.
Yeah, well, I mean, they'd been broadcasting things on Twitch for a while. They used to do that with Grand Prix. They did that with SCG Opens. They've done that
But
with
now
previous Worlds.
now they have a fancy online.
And Arena was their
platform
big
for the
push. It seemed
games.
like into let's make Magic an esport.
Yeah, exactly. Now we have this fancy
So, yeah.
online
Arena. So yeah,
arena, as it were. We built a fancy arena for our esports.
For the people just listening, I'm getting very close to Dave and going, It's fun to watch, I promise.
I'm still saying boo. I promise.
Okay, let's.
I-
Is Magic an esport? Yes, no.
It's a tabletop game that they're trying to force into an esport, and
I think they should.
it probably. The thing is, like, it feels like they're playing round peg square hole. Like,
Do you think Magic isn't a very good candidate to be an esport?
I think that if you play Magic, then you might be interested in watching two other people playing Magic, but for the most part, I think it's going to be like watching paint dry unless you are heavily interested in Magic.
no, but
I think it's not a.
But do you think League is watchable if you're not interested in like League of Legends?
I could give two shits about League. I do not watch those.
But esports are interesting.
I'm honestly not sure.
No, but that's so we are.
I'll watch speedruns of games that I've never heard of before. But
Yeah.
I think that's a whole different thing.
That's
more of spectacle than anything
I'd
else.
see. Here's the thing I don't know though. Like I think in the world where you're trying to figure out what they were doing on paper and like even with the best commentary, that was really difficult. I think that is way less difficult when you see it on Arena.
Because you literally
and you see things happen.
You see the damage marked, you see the numbers go, you see it literally crash into the enemy. So it's like, okay, they played this card from their hand. It's a little rectangle. Another rectangle is smashing the person, and a number's going down live.
And you have people commentating on these streams and stuff like that too. I think it makes it infinitely more watchable, and it puts it right in the league of speedrunning where you're seeing people who are experts at this thing do this thing in a way that is accessible that you can see.
As far as like old coverage goes, I think the only old coverage that really caught my attention involved people being overly cruel to the people that were playing. I've got two examples for you. There was one where Bob Maher was one side of this, and the other side was, I have no idea what their name was, but they were on Mono Black Necropotence.
Okay.
And Randy Bueller was doing commentary on it, and he was just talking mad shit on the kid that's playing Necropotence. To the effect of something like, and he's intent on being the first person ever to win a Pro Tour 5-0, implying that he should have won every single game, but he made play mistakes that cost him the game. Now, of course, he's not hearing this as he's playing. He's not hearing Bueller heckling him, but it happened.
Yeah.
Like, and in all honesty, as bad as it sounds, I kind of found it funny. I thought it was kind of funny. I don't remember the name of the pro, but there's someone that's not allowed to do any sort of coverage anymore. Because and the rumors were, and I don't know if this is true or not, but apparently he had a couple before they put him behind the microphone. And it was the Affinity Pro Tour, and he is just going after Arcbound Ravager and how the guy playing Affinity is playing it terribly, and he's like, see, this is just how good this card is. Like, it doesn't matter how many play mistakes he makes. It's fine. Arcbound Ravager is just like a fairy godmother, just saying, it's fine, you misplayed, I still love you.
It's kind of an interesting thing. I record my Brawl with Brett's, and I make a lot of mistakes, but I feel like I'm most entertaining when I'm ragging on myself for making mistakes. Yeah. So people like watching people fail, and so I punted 2 games this last recording, and I think I punted them interestingly. In one of them, we were in like the next game. It's like, I used Clothis, God of Destiny, to eat their Questing Beast instead of eating that escape spell because I was being funny and like, we'll get him back for killing us with Questing Beast. But they killed us exactly. Yeah. And they used that escape spell to make a 1-1 that got us to... we lost that game because I wasn't paying attention. Oh, shit, viewer.
Yeah, and I don't think any of this is an argument against this being an esport.
True. I mean, and keep in mind, I've been on the receiving end of getting shit talked on me during a match that's being recorded.
Yeah.
Like, my brainstorming is pretty loose. I think that was putting it nicely. It was a pretty ambitious brainstorm. Dryad and Druid are very different things. So, pro tip: if you get a time machine and you play in that Des Moines tournament, don't bring in engineered explosives against Maverick. Don't do that because what the hell are you gonna name? It's really bad.
I managed to be unable to count to 15 in a dual commander tournament, and I almost lost a commander's arsenal because I thought I could play Emrakul and I couldn't. And there were like 20 people watching us because it was the last game, and I was like misplaying up and down and miscounting mana. It's embarrassing, but there's a reason people go watch live theater. There's a reason people watch sports. It's because you want to see. I don't know. I kind of with you. I kind of think it makes it feel more esporty.
And if the only problem that you had with the talking and the kind of like sporty attitude that was already there is that it was hard to like. It was like, I guess hockey is one of the best examples of people like watching a sport and they're like, I can't see the puck going around. I don't know what's happening.
I love
we've got the red line and all that stuff so you can follow the puck.
I mean, I go to hockey games and I'll give you a reason. There's
I'm just saying people use it as an example. I like hockey too.
No, I know. I was going to say 30% of going to a hockey game is funnel cake. 30% of going to a hockey game is maybe somebody will get in a fight, and then the rest is like, I guess I'll watch some hockey.
You're enjoying hockey wrong. I'm just saying.
Funnel cake is like one of man's greatest creations, and it's not as available as it should be.
So anyway, if the only problem was like the accessibility of like understanding what you were seeing if you were a novice to how hockey works, if that's an analogous barrier to how Magic was not an esport in that it was hard to see what was going on and understand what was going on. Now I feel like we're getting into territory where that's not so hard.
So now watching football. Imagine watching, if you watch pro football. Imagine watching football without the yellow line.
Yeah.
Or watching football without knowing the rules.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing.
Well,
but
that's the thing.
But here's the
you
thing.
can still watch the Super Bowl not knowing the rules because, like, I mean, they had. Like,
I don't.
well, that's commercials and stuff, but like,
Yeah.
let's say you kind of know the game a little bit. The
you
yellow
know,
lines
you know,
and stuff help you a ton.
So I think an arena kind of functions like that. So we were operating in a world where imagine trying to watch a pro football game without the score being posted up, without the yellow lines and all the down information. So that would be really hard to follow for a new person.
The
And
yardage
that
that
was-
you're going to, the explanation
But if you're
of the penalties.
now with arena and like I said, the movement and all of the illustrative
Slow-mo.
stuff. Because if you go to the center of the football, you go, "What's the yellow line?" Well, you can go, "Okay, so you have to make it 10 yards, and then if you make it 10 yards within 4 downs, you got to go another 10 yards, and that yellow line will move out." And so someone who could ask a couple questions, and now it's all pretty simple. And so I feel
and it's all recorded, so like, I mean, if after the game ends and something like that, you want to play something back that was a particularly good move, you could then like, it gets into the very sports sensationalism. Or let's view that again in slow mo.
Now that's the other part. When something really cool happens on camera,
Yeah.
then it's worth watching. But you know, that's not a guarantee every time.
but
It's like
here's-
the guy playing Battle of Wits Zoo a long time ago, where his opponent was on.
There's also really
some
boring
sneak and
football
show
games,
deck.
though.
He goes turn 1, show and tell. I have Emrakul. What did you put down? Oh, you put down Battle of Wits.
Yeah,
Okay, game 3.
So-
like,
so
that-
here's-
those are funny. Those are cute.
And here's
Those
something.
are-
Here's something to keep in mind. So, I used to watch a ton of Star City games, and there was an article years ago where they brought in a sports commentator, and Cedric Phillips, the guy, one of the main guys at Star City, has done a ton to advance the I don't know, I wouldn't say art, but the idea of Magic commentary. He's done a ton for it. And one of the things that they really stress in this article is like, how do you do Magic commentary better? It's like, you need to create moments. And so after that article got published, I'd watch Star City games, and they would do their best to like, they'd tell us, okay, these are the things they could draw. This is what could happen. And when one of those exciting things that they pitched could happen, they would go, oh, and they'd yell and they'd slap the table and they'd make you excited. And so I think we're getting to a point, there's ways that we can make
There's
Magic
a lot
more,
to be said for commentary.
there's a skill to it, yeah. So like, and that's what I try to do when I'm playing. So like, I've taken that. So when I'm recording, I'm like, okay, all right, viewer, here are our outs. Here are the things that could happen. If we draw one of these cards, we can maybe get that. And then if it doesn't, I can go, bwah, bwah, we didn't get it. But if we get that, I got to go, we did it. And I got to hit the nut button. I have a nut button. And we got to slam the crazy stuff, and we got to get them. And it's really exciting. And so like, I'm kind of all for Magic for an esport.
I'm trying to remember Jim Kramer.
Oh
That's the
yeah,
name.
Crazy
Are
Kramer
you-
with
are
his
you-
sound effects and
I don't have like a radio like,
Like,
wham, fart noise.
I'm going to get you. I'm going to get you one of those things that you know the cow
a
says.
soundboard.
"Moo."
A
Yeah.
soundboard.
No, not a soundboard. I'm talking about like an actual child's toy, so you can use that. That sounds.
The cow goes.
Like one of those, like where you like
the
you
spin
pull
the
the
thing?
you spin the thing.
yeah, absolutely. It's like, hey, we got there. The cow says moo. That feels like a solid investment. I'm gonna hit up the Walmart later.
If you
'cause
buy it for
apparently
me-
they're the only place it's open past 10 anymore.
You buy it for me, I'll use it on stream.
Oh, excellent.
But so I don't know. I think Magic. I don't know if we're at esport yet. Generally, I like the steps we're taking.
I wanted to go there.
And
I
in
do, I
Wizards,
do.
it kind of bringing it on back to topic 1.
I want to watch this on ESPN 8, the Ocho.
So coverage used to be on ESPN 2, and I'm going to tell you this right now: that coverage was unwatchable.
It was not
I
good.
know.
was
I want
straight up
I
unwatchable.
want
They didn't
it
know how
now watchable with good commentary.
They're getting like watching Worlds, and they have all the sports thing, and like
Yeah.
the desk looks like sports. They have all the logos. It looks good. It's really exciting to watch. And Wizards,
I'll
if you
watch it on Twitch,
if you
but I want it to be on ESPN.
If we can get Jason Bateman to do some of the commentary on it without having
oh,
any context
yeah.
as to the game, that sounds fine too.
No, yeah, I'm down for that. I mean, and here's the thing: if you wanted to be an esports wizard, treat it like a sport. Treat it like an esport. Give us the data. Let us crunch the numbers. Make that
Sell
part of
drinks
it.
in the stands.
We just make the stuff a part of it. So instead of going, oh, we want the meta to be concealed, have Frank Karsten come on as a commentator and explain the metagame breakdown and say whether the pros followed it or not. Like
Have-
embrace
have-
With the
this.
white button down that has some wrinkles on it, with the top 2 buttons undone,
Yeah.
and maybe a
Oh, and
tie
that's the
that's
thing,
like
too.
very disheveled, so he's going through the whole Pepe Sylvia thing.
Or maybe
that sounds awesome.
Yeah, like bring in a Hall of Famer or something like
bring
that.
in
to,
a-
like,
oh,
yeah.
Hall
bring
of
bring
Famer
exactly
who-
Frank Karsten.
Yeah.
Bring in Frank Karsten and have him do a metagame breakdown. Don't obscure the information. Okay. Hoof. I mean, I'm riled, but I'm not mad. I'm just excited. I'm really excited for Worlds. I'm gonna watch that this weekend, and Javier's gonna get it. Viva la Spain!
It's not where Brazil is at all. It's a very different. They're different countries. They speak different languages too.
What? Who are you rooting for?
PV, obviously.
Okay.
Duh.
Go.
Duh.
Javier's gonna get it. I have faith in the man. He's playing Jeskai Fires. I was hoping he was on Mono Red, but he's on Jeskai Fires, which I'm actually kind of scared about because I feel like the Jeskai Fires. We're gonna go to the post show. You know what? We're gonna cover this in a second. So, any final thoughts on this before we wrap this up? You're gonna have, if you want to listen to me talk about that, dollar on Patreon.
My final thought on it is like I'm all for this being an esport. I want it to be an esport. I want this to be. I want more casual players to be able to hype themselves up about Magic because we're watching amazing gameplay on Twitch that's very watchable with great commentary. That is a world I want to live in.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there, Dave.
Make Power accessible, allow Vintage and Legacy to be played as well, and I'm on board. Sure,
cool.
I don't see why not.
It could happen.
That's not going to happen for at least. That's going to take at least 10 years, if not longer.
I would love to see some Vintage on Arena.
Let's talk about that next week.
Sure,
that
let's
would
actually
be
do
cool.
that. Also,
Vintage on Arena?
Yeah, let's talk about it. So,
hypotheticals.
we're going to wrap this up. Like I said in previous episodes, I'm going to try to do this quicker. Thanks for watching. We really appreciate it. Links below for social media, all sorts of stuff like that. Patreon, if you want to see the pre and post show, we're going to go on and talk about some of the decks from Worlds. It's not too late. If you haven't gone on Patreon, the videos will have accessible links on Patreon
Also
to come back and see this one. And we're going to talk about Yu-Gi-Oh! Too. So check that out. We really recommend it, and it helps us out.
And Pogo?
And Pokemon Go. We got a big
It
pre-show.
says Pogo right. I see it.
It's on the list.
You wrote down Pogo.
We have a
did
big
it.
post-show
There.
list. So thanks for watching, everybody. We appreciate you. Make sure to remember who you are. Have a good night.